This is a video tutorial showing you how to work with MotionBuilder and motion capture data. So I've already got a lot of motion capture data which we have captured in a motion capture lab, and I'm going to take this motion capture data into MotionBuilder and I'm going to put an actor on it, and in the second part of this tutorial we're going to create a character which will then map that motion data onto a skeletal rig which we can then use to produce a film, which we'll show in the third part. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take in some motion capture data. I've already done a few of these, so I'm only going to take one of the ones that I don't have yet. So here are some of the ones that I've done already. Let's view this in detail view. So I have a Neo entering a stance and Morpheus entering a stance I have not yet done. So we're going to take the intro scene and we're going to try to put it into MotionBuilder. So the ones I've already finished, I moved into another folder. So let's take a look at starting with number 18, I guess. So let's put that into MotionBuilder. We're just going to import that, and we get these markers, and we should be able to play this animation, and we see that this appears to be a stance. Now I already have this stance, so I think I'm going to just skip that one. I'm going to go on to number 18 here. Alright, so let's play through this. Okay, this is another stance phase, another stance capture, but it actually looked a lot better than the one that I just saw. There weren't any missing markers, no floating markers, so this looks good. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to put an actor into this marker setup. So in order to do that, we have to go to the templates here. See if we can expand this a little bit here. So we have some templates here in MotionBuilder. Oh, by the way, these are folders that I just added by right-clicking and add favorite path. And then you just navigate to any path on your computer and you can add these folders here for quick access. So anyways, we need to go to characters here, and in characters there's an actor template here. We're just going to drag and drop that actor in there. So I don't need to see the skeleton. It doesn't hurt to see the skeleton, but it's a bit distracting, so I'm going to turn it off, and we can use that here on the big blue button when we have the actor selected, and we can say show hide actor skeleton, and that turns off the skeleton. Okay, so the first thing I need to do is I need to position this actor in the scene, and in order to do that we need to move him by his hips. And the reason why we have to move him by his hip is because if we try to move anything else, then he'll end up not translating the rest of his body. So we don't want to do that. So we have to move him by his hips so that the whole body moves like this. Okay, so I'm going to put him in the marker position. I'm using shortcut keys here, by the way. So R is to rotate. Pressing T on the keyboard will translate, and S to scale. And this will be important. We'll also want to scale. So first I want to rotate him. So rotate him about into the marker position. Translate him a bit more. And one of the things that we can do to get him to correctly match up into the markers is we can change the views by hitting Control T. Control T will swap between top and bottom. This is the bottom view. I'm looking at his feet. Control T again to go back to the top view. But just place him a little bit better in the markers here. We can also go to the right view with Control R, and hitting it again will go to the left view. Here you see the left, right. So that swaps. And Control F for front and back. To go back to the perspective view, we can just use the keyboard Control E. Alright, so now we got the keyboard. In case you are not familiar with the mouse controls, it's Shift right mouse button to rotate, Shift left mouse button to translate, and Control left mouse button to zoom in and out. Okay. We could also use these. Press the button and hold to rotate, press the button and hold and drag to translate, and press this button and hold to zoom in and out. I don't find it very convenient, so I prefer to use the keyboard shortcuts. Much easier for me if I don't mix them up with the other editors. Anyways, okay, so now what we have to do is we have to, starting from his hips, we need to translate and scale the character so that he fits within the markers. Now, it's not really important if he's exactly touching the markers. He has to just be close enough to the markers. So I see that it's actually okay, I think. We can scale this up slightly here. And usually we want to do a uniform scale. We don't want to do like this, because that won't really produce the effect we want. We usually want to do a uniform scale, so we have to drag from the center marker here in order to do a uniform scale. Okay, so then position up a bit. I think the shoulders have to be a bit higher. So yeah, I just did a non-uniform scale here, but that's because my capture character has a higher chest than the actor. That's okay, but most of the time this looks okay already. I might want to scale that up a little bit more here on the shoulders. Look in the top view again. By the way, if you press A, that's your shortcut key to show all, so that's a very convenient way to just get that to line up correctly. And I see that the arm here, maybe we'll start with this. We'll rotate this down a bit. Down a bit. It looks like my actor was slouching his arm quite a bit, so I'm not really sure the best way to add this up. Let's just bring it down a bit to there. Like I said, they don't have to match up exactly. It's just that if it's good enough. And I'm using the F key to frame here, and that'll frame the currently selected object. That's about good enough here. Now let's do the other arm again. Just go to different views here, frame this up. This also centers, so now that if I frame it up and I'm in the perspective view, if I frame it, I'm also going to rotate around that pivot point. So that's a good way to get things to line up a bit. Let's move that one down. And we'll move that one back up a little bit. Take a look from the top view. So you can't just rotate the other arm, because that will just probably break a lot of things. So we don't want to produce any impossible limb movements. At least we want to avoid it as much as possible. It looks like the shoulder marker, it's the elbow marker. It's possible the elbow marker sometimes droops down on the... Yeah, this is a bit of an impossible position here. So what I'll do is actually I'll grab his hip there. We'll rotate the whole thing. I think he might have been standing a little bit off. Okay, like I said, this doesn't have to be exactly right, but it has to be about right. I'm not going to worry too much about that one. If we get horrible results in the motion capture, we can usually fix it up a bit. Fix it up again in the on the character later. Also, we'll just see what we get with this. Okay, so as you can see, I was starting from the hip and I moved up to the chest and then out to the arms and then head kind of last. And now you go down to the legs. Now the reason is because if you start from the head, for example, start resizing it, the minute you start resizing the hips, the head will move, so we don't want to do that, of course. Okay, so that looks pretty alright, actually. Maybe I'll Nah, I'm gonna leave that like that. But the left leg was a bit wider, so he's standing a bit wider, or we need to move him over slightly. And I'll widen both the legs a little bit, like so. And then move that back slightly like so. We're not going to worry too much about the foot placement being on the ground either, because we can fix that up later on the character using floor context. Okay, so now that our character, our actor, is inside the frame, what we want to do is we want to map the markers to the actor here. So in order to do that, we'll just deselect everything here. In order to do that, we have to create a marker set on him. So we're going to create a new marker set, and this creates all these bubbles here, and as you see, the bubbles are currently 0. That's because no markers have been placed on those particular positions. So for every marker set, for every template, we're using a particular template from Vicon for our character. There will be a certain number of markers that are placed on the character's marker set. For example, these 3 head markers will all be used on the head. But for example, the shoulder marker or this elbow marker, there's no position for an elbow. This is a forearm, this is an upper arm, and this is a shoulder here. So there's no elbow markers. So we probably won't use that one. Or we will, but we can put it on the lower arm, for example. You might have a predetermined template for this already, but generally it's going to be use your common sense basically to place the markers here. Now the other problem I had was I wanted to only select these head markers, but the head itself also got selected. Now we can actually mask the particular parts that are being selected when you do this. For example, if you only want to select the model, you can select that. You see now none of the markers got selected there. I'm only selecting the models even when I do a big drag like this. But in this case, I only want to select markers, so I'm going to turn that one off, and I'm going to press this one for marker selection mask. That way now when I select this, I only get the markers. We also want to turn off our transform node because I just want to get them onto the model here. So to get them onto the marker set here, you can just drag them from the scene holding the Alt key on your keyboard and drag them in here and drop them on there. So you can see that those markers got immediately assigned to the head. So there were 4. I think there's one in the back. You can actually see them. If I have an X-ray mode, I can flip between the different view modes pressing Control A. So X-ray mode shows us the markers through the head. So you see I have 1, 2, 3, 4 markers selected here. If I hit Control A again, one gets disappeared, one goes away because it's actually inside of the head. I'm not too concerned with that, but I do want to make sure I can see all the markers at the same time. So here we have shoulder markers, so let's Alt drag the shoulder marker onto the right shoulder. Alt drag the left shoulder onto the left shoulder. Upper arm onto the upper arm. Shoulder, we'll put this onto the lower arm for now. And the hand markers, we'll take all 3 of those and we'll Alt drag them onto the left hand, or right hand. Now we'll do the same. Alt drag that, select that one, Alt drag that on, and the upper arm, we'll drag that onto there. Now for the chest, I'm not sure I want to take all the markers from the chest, so I'm only going to take those 3 and these 2. Actually, yeah, I think you can have a maximum of 5 markers. Yeah, 5 on a single body part. I cannot have more, so if I wanted to select this one and I'll drag it onto here, it wouldn't even let me. It doesn't even give me the option. So 5 is the maximum I can use there, so I'm actually not going to use those ones. For the hips, I'm going to drag these ones on here and drag, oops, Alt drag, not Control drag, Alt drag those onto there. And for the legs, I'm going to take these ones and I'm going to Alt drag those onto, oh, I just want this one. I'll drag that onto, actually no, I don't want that. If I want to get rid of one, I have to actually select it and hit delete on the keyboard. I only want the knee marker, so I'm just going to take, I'll drag that one, I'll drag that onto that knee, and I'll drag that one onto this knee. And let's take the shins, take that one, I'll drag that over there, and that one, and I'll drag that. Alright, so these markers at the end are actually for the toes, so I'm going to drag those ones right onto the end, and I'm going to drag that one on there, and I think the last two markers, we're going to alt drag those right onto the foot. Alt drag those. Alright, so now we have all of the markers assigned to the body parts of our model. Now we can click here to activate the model. And you see when I activated it, he actually didn't move that much. There was the shoulder ones here. They moved, but let's see how this turned out. Now when we play it, then we see the actor moving with it. Now it actually looked pretty okay. The hand over here is a bit bent, but I'm not going to be too concerned with that. It looked actually really well, really good. So the head is completely screwed up, but you know what? We can fix this in the character later. We could reposition the head. But make sure I turn off my marker mask, otherwise I won't be able to select the head. But I think I'm going to fix this later on the character. This looks pretty okay, so let's leave that at that. Okay, so now that we have our actor placed inside the marker set, and we have all the markers assigned to all the body parts here, we don't want to have to go through the laborious process of doing that every single time. So what we're going to do is we're going to export this marker set to a HIC file, and this HIC file can be used to reassign all of the markers back onto the actor quickly, so we don't have to keep doing this over and over again. So let's take a look at that. We're going to create a new scene file. We'll save this one. Save this one as Neo take we create a new one, and we'll just drag in one of these marker sets. Now we'll take a look at the optical data, and you can see there's no name prefix on this, so this was an unlabeled actor. Otherwise you would see a name prefixing each one of these optical markers, but in this case that wasn't the case. Okay, that looks alright, but let's now let's put another actor in our scene. So we drop the actor in the scene. Let's turn off that skeleton again. Now I'm going to import the marker set I just created. So that was the second one here, and you can see all the points move to him. And I need to tell him that this optical data should be used on this actor. So in order to do that, I'm going to select branches here. So I select all the markers, and then I just drag and drop right onto the reference marker, right onto the reference point here. And that should assign all of them here like this. Now in order to get the actor to animate again with the markers, I have to activate. So after I do that, I should be able to see the actor moving correctly. Okay, that actually looks pretty alright. Again, the head is a little bit askew, but I can fix that on the character later. So let's save that. We actually have different numbering here. Morpheus stance. Okay. The next tutorial will show you how to map a character into this animation so that we can put it onto a skeleton.